Ollie Lane joins us now, former Tennessee center and all-around great dude. Ollie, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys doing today?
Well, so Tennessee's players said to a man in their Monday and Tuesday press conferences that they weren't paying attention to that college football playoff selection show. What's the truth? Do you think they were?
Yeah, maybe to a point. But we didn't really pay attention to it a whole lot in 22 when it came out. It's kind of still new in a sense, and I mean now you got so many teams with this power rankings that it's hard to really gauge where you're at in a term. And I mean, I think where they put Tennessee at in that ranking is about right of where they should be at. And so I don't know how much of a focus is put on that. Maybe if any motivation drawn from that is just to be higher than what they are currently. I don't know if they would take it as a point of, oh, we're already in it. Like let's go ahead and set up shop and plan on being in the playoffs. I wouldn't say it's putting that kind of mentality into them. If anything, I would say it's putting in, hey, we got some more work to do to secure up a spot for this playoff.
Let's talk about this offense for a second, Ollie, because while Nico hasn't yet put up against a quality opponent, I should say, a Hendon Hooker type of day, given the last 6 quarters, I'm completely sold that he can lead Tennessee to big things this year, that he can be a championship quarterback. Am I putting the cart before the horse, or tell me what you've seen the last 6 quarters of football?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think you're completely right. I mean, that was my expectations for Nico all along. I think he's going to be a really developed, polished quarterback in his later part of his career. He's in his development phase right now. He's still learning and picking up new things. And I mean, every single time he steps on the field, and especially as you pointed out, his last 6 quarters is just a little snippet of his resume. He's continuing to improve and get better throughout the season, and he's becoming more and more comfortable with the system and what all the coaching staff's asking for him and what all everybody needs from him to be able to put us in a position to win every week. And he's continued to do that and grow into that. And I really saw it, especially against Kentucky, is you saw him get more comfortable pushing the tempo, getting it going early, finding open receivers in shorter options, and actually connecting on a lot more of his passes that were kind of out hitting different targets instead of where it needed to be. And I saw him do that. Now, obviously, you got to get the receivers to kind of step up and make some more catches consistently. But all in all, Nico is following the correct development track, and he's only continuing to prove everybody that he's got everything that everybody expects of him.
Ollie, you brought up the receivers. There were a couple of drops last week, but the tackles finally showed a lot of improvement for the second, from the last 6 quarters, they've been good. How close is this offense really to finally putting it all together? And if they can they look like the 2022 offense?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's nothing that's holding this team back from being where it was at in 22 offensively, production-wise. I mean, the talent's there and all the pieces are there. It's just putting it together in a way that works uniform with everybody. And, I mean, they're continuing to figure it out and find what works, what scheme and play calling and play styling works for them best with the talent and players that they have over there. But, I mean, you can see, especially up front offensive line, they're continuing to improve throughout the season and play at a higher and higher clip each week. And, I mean, you see them just only continuing to put better clips on tape. And then it is creating more comfort for Nico in the pocket to be able to find his receivers, create more time for him. I like what they're doing with the rollout passes and stuff like that, buying more natural time for him to kind of sprint out, get more comfortable, use his legs and move it around. I saw a lot more assertiveness from Nico in his decision-making on when to run it, when to pass it, and when nothing was available for him and when he had to take off and go. And you could see it created more fluency in the offense. Now, obviously, they still weren't able to crack that first half score as effectively as we wanted to. But, I mean, you saw them moving the ball a lot better in that first half against Kentucky, and I hope they continue to take from that and continue to build it, and then now just strengthen when you get to that red zone being able to finish it.
Let me ask you about something you would notice more than Caleb and I would, and that is the offensive tackle position. I know John Campbell had
Mhm.
the one hold, but just your thoughts on how they're progressing along with Lance Hurd at left.
Yeah, I mean, they're progressing a far way. I mean, obviously, John's been beat up, and also with Lance, he's been beat up. But I mean, they're coming along and playing really well for us to end out this season. I mean, you got guys like Dane Davis who's able to come in and still rotate and put in quality time for you, kind of take some of that load off everybody, give everybody a little bit of a breather, which is nice, especially when you want to start pushing this tempo, especially late in the season. You can kind of get a little worn out a lot faster just because of the wear and tear of all 10, 12 games starting to weigh on you a little bit. So, I mean, it's nice to see that they're starting to play a lot more complete. And especially when you get into the end of the season, you're not looking at maybe getting more improved play, but just consistent play. And I mean, you're seeing it not only be more consistent, but the level of play is also improving. So, I mean, that's something to note as just how impressive it's getting. And I mean, it all starts with your leader up front, Cooper Mays, and what he's been able to do to get these guys around him to step up their level of play and all buy in on the same mission and objective. And that's we got to protect Nico and move this football.
Ollie, let me ask you about what the issues were with the receivers last week, because there's now been, it seems like, a drop off in play with them. Is that because are there issues there, or do you think they've just not been able to get in the rhythm because there were some other issues related to the passing game in previous weeks?
I think there's probably just a mixture of things that are going on. And I mean, at the end of the day, players just occasionally have bad games and have stuff that they got to work on coming from that. And I think if you look at the Kentucky game, I think some of those missed opportunities were just missed opportunities that having given them back, they would probably make those catches. And looking back at it through the tape this week, I'm sure that they've just looked at that, made those decisions on what was wrong. Why didn't we follow through on these catches? And what do I got to do? As a wide receiver, you look up and you got to say, I've got to be able to make it up and do these things for my quarterback that's also struggling and under a lot of the media spotlight as well with that. Because, I mean, Nico had a great game, 292 passing yards, but that 292 could have easily been pushing 350, 400 if you catch a couple of those deep balls. And so it's just something that you look at everybody holding everybody accountable, holding them up and lifting them up to just letting them know, like, hey, this is some areas that could have been big plays for us. Let's just focus on it and keep working on it. It's going to happen. These big plays are going to come. We're going to connect and we're going to catch. Don't press. Don't do anything out of the ordinary to make it happen. Just allow the natural progression to happen and just focus on making those big plays the next time out.
Yeah, I'm gonna try Ollie to do something here. It's my best impression of Cooper Mays. You ready?
Yeah.
Because I have to read between the lines with Cooper, which a lot of times you have to do because everybody kind of wants to protected. So this is way back in September-ish of 2022. So this would have been Dylan Samson's freshman year. And he goes like this, I like that guy. And his eyebrows raised. And I was like, okay, that means he really likes him, because Cooper doesn't say, I don't like that guy or I do like that guy. And he just kind of offered that up. And I'm curious if you have a Dylan Samson story, because I've covered football for like 25 years, and you don't hear of running backs being leaders a lot of the times. But if you have a story, not to put you on the spot, about Dylan Samson and his leadership capabilities and what he's done as a running back to assume that role.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it multiple times on a lot of places and to just a lot of people in my personal life. Dylan Samson is just a great guy. He's a great personality. He's a super big light in the locker room. When he first came on the team, everybody enjoyed having him around and talking to him. And I'll never forget the first year that I wanted to host my own Ollie Lane camp at Gibbs. Trying to get everything set up and put together was a little difficult, but it's something that I wanted to do to give back to the community. And, Dylan was the first person that I went to ask him for help and kind of signing on and letting me attach his name to it. And he was super excited to be a part of it. And then when came time for the camp, he was super involved in it. made every single kid that was part of that camp feel special for being there, and everybody was excited to see him. And, it's just nice to see him extend himself past something that he didn't have to do, that was just for a teammate, and it's to help out a community that he's not even from, that I'm from. Seeing somebody be able to do that was, super humbling, and I'm super thankful for him to be able to do that. But that just let me into more of what his personality is. And then just as I've seen him throughout the years continue to progress and grow is just super huge. He's been a vocal leader for the past 2 years that I've been there. And then, I know for this year, for sure, he's continued to grow into that vocal leader spotlight. And he's got a great way to motivate people with words. He knows the right ways to communicate with everybody. And he's also just super encouraging and motivational. Every word that comes out of his mouth is positive. There's nothing negative that he could ever say about anybody. And if he does ever say anything negative, then it's coming from a good place, that he wants to help you grow in that area.
Yeah. So, Ollie, how do you think this ends? What do you make of the idea that maybe Tennessee's offense, there was just some growth that was needed, and maybe is it possible they'll just start to peak at the right time, which is late November, just in time for the playoff?
Yeah, I see them putting together the pieces to be more consistent offensively. I don't know, and I think a lot of people's expectations are that this offense is just magically going to go back to 2022, and we're going to be putting up 50, 60 points every single game and having a party in the end zone. I don't know if it's necessarily going to get all the way back to that point right away. I think maybe in the next year or so, with Nico continuing to grow in his career, that it'll get to that point. But I think as far as this season, they're continuing to put pieces together to have a successful offense with where they're at in the season. And each week they're improving, and that's what you want to see out of a team, and especially for a team that's chasing championships. You want to see them to continue to improve. You don't want to see them hit a peak sometime at some point in the season. If you ever want to see them hit a peak, you want it to be that last time that they're ever on the field.
Now, Caleb's been incredibly hard on Max Gilbert after he missed 3
I have not. I've been the most offensive. No, Dave has been hard on Max Gilbert. Dave wants to trade him.
Okay. Trade him. Here's the thing that scares me, Ollie, and I hope nothing but the best for all the guys out there, all 85 in the walk-ons. But here's the thing that scares me from Tennessee's perspective. You have a defensive team, at least we think that now. We'll see what the offense does. You have a defensive team that runs the football and is probably going to have to win a game close, whether it's Georgia or it gets into the college football playoff. So if you're Josh Heupel, do you go to him? Do you talk to him? Do you leave him alone because kickers are kind of quirky? How do you handle that?
I don't know. I guess part of that just depends on what relationship Max and Coach Heupel have with one another. But too, I know just the job that Coach Eberle does over there with that special teams group. And then I know just as a special teams group, how close-knit that group is together. And so I'm sure they all have their own accountability metrics and know how to lift people up when they need it. And I know Max has probably needed it this week. That's not like him to go out there and go 0 for 3. And I'm sure that was not what he wanted to do, especially in a big game like that. And like you said, as we start moving down to further spots in this season, the games are only going to get closer. And you're going to need a field goal or two to be able to edge yourself out of some contests. So it's a big spot for him to be able to correct whatever mistakes it was that he made that led to the misses against Kentucky. But I know the job that Coach Eberle does down there, and I know what that special teams group is and how close-knit they are, that I know they're going to be able to correct any issues that they have over there.
Okay, as a teammate, it's kind of like a pitcher throwing a no-hitter, okay?
Yeah.
You don't want to say any, or do you? Do you say anything during the week like, hey, Skipper, you're going to be fine. You went 0 for 3, but we believe it. Or do you just kind of stay away and let it be status quo?
A mix of both. It just depends on what kind of relationship you have with him and what kind of personality he has. With some guys, it's like you can joke around with them after it in the week and just kind of give them some tough love here and there. And then some guys, you just kind of let it be, know that they're handling it on their own. Because, some people take failure in different ways, and some people it crushes them and they don't want to talk about it. Some people it helps them to joke about it and move on from it. So, again, it just depends on what type of relationship personality people have with them. I think for the most part, like for me personally, after a bad game, I needed about 2 days not to talk about it. And then you could start coming up and joking with me and everything. And then it'll kind of make it feel a little bit better that it's smoothed over. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, maybe just kind of let it sit for a couple days.
You're like my buddy in high school. Like if Powell High School, I got my PhD, Powell High diploma. But if Powell won, we'd go out on Friday night and do things that we shouldn't be doing, and then we'd probably go out on Saturday night. If Powell lost, I'd call him on Saturday morning. I'd say, "How you doing?" He goes, "Sleeping." He didn't want to talk for like 2 days. Our poll question is this, and I'm just going to ask you this question. I'm most confident in the Vols quarterback play, offensive line play, running back play, wide receiver play. Now everybody's voting running back, and I've got no argument with that, but I'm thinking depth too. So I want to factor that in. So you're most confident in which of those aspects of Tennessee's offense?
I mean, I gotta say, just if I'm looking production wise, obviously I'm looking running backs. They've put in a lot of work this season, and it's been fairly fun to watch. But I mean, as far as just what I'm most confident in, I mean, if I'm going from just what I'm most confident in to I know they're going to perform each week. I mean, I know Dylan Samson and the running backs, I know they're going to perform every single week. But, I mean, I feel that same level of confidence in the offensive line, and I'm sure everybody should be like, whoa, you sound crazy. But, I mean, I'm confident that our offensive line go out there against some of the best defensive linemen out there and compete every single game. I've seen them do it time and time again. Does it look 100% beautiful every single play? No, but I'm confident in their ability to go out there and handle anybody that we ask them to.
Ollie, over under 45 points.
I'm going under.
You don't think Tennessee's scoring 45?
No, I'm going under this week. That's no knock against. It's close, but it's under.
Yeah, and I do want to ask you about that. Great setup, Caleb, because there's no need really to lay 100 on an opponent or 70, as Josh Heupel likes to do with an onside kick. But there, I say that, but there is, because how much does it help if Tennessee's up 30 points or whatever, and you can sit the starters before? Yeah, there's a pretty big game against some other Bulldogs next week. How much does that help physically the way you feel on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, heading into the next week if you can sit out a half?
Yeah, no, I mean, it helps a ton. And I mean, I'm sure if they can get it to that point in the game, they'll want to, because you obviously not looking ahead, but looking ahead, the Bulldogs next week are a lot tougher than the Bulldogs you got this week. So, I mean, you want to be able to try to find maybe a situation where you can sit some of your key guys for a little bit, just to make sure that they are 100% ready for what is now going to be your biggest game of the season, because this one's going to set you up for potentially an SEC championship and a lock in the playoffs compared to fighting to see what 10-2 is going to be able to get you in the postseason. So I think they definitely want to get to that point, and I think they have all the ability to get to that point in this football game if they want to.
Okay, Ollie. So you probably heard Bob Kessling is retiring. I have endorsed John Wilkerson as being the next play-by-play voice. I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to go ahead, and if you want the job, endorse you as the color commentator. Would you be interested in that job?
Yeah, no, I'd take it. I'd love it. So.
All right.
Who couldn't get enough of me, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't get enough of Ollie. All right,
yeah.
Ollie. Great job, buddy. We appreciate you as always. I am going to pull up one little thing that I want to show with Ollie here. And that is, Ollie, you've been in this office for a long time, and you've only got Star Wars memorabilia behind you. And you've got one entire cabinet that's completely empty. I mean,
hey,
are you not planning on staying at this job, or what's going on?
I'm staying. You should see my boss's office. It's a lot blander than mine is. So I mean, I've got I've got some stuff on the walls over here. I mean, I'm working on it. My next thing, I'm getting some of my jerseys framed, and they're going on the walls at some point. But there's only so many little knickknacks that I could pick up here and there. So
I know.
trying to build it up.
Great stuff, Ollie. We appreciate you more than you know.
All right, appreciate y'all. Have a good one.